Perot and Wansboro now at 1-800-521-2900.
Tonight, as we come on the air, the hostage standoff right now. It's happening at one of the largest veterans' homes in America. A gunman armed with a rifle, opening fire, taking hostages. Images coming in from the scene. President Trump's big gamble 24 hours after the president agrees to meet face-to-face with Kim Jong-un. What the White House is now saying tonight. The horrific chain reaction crash on an icy interstate. The pictures coming in, and tonight we're now tracking yet another possible nor'easter. The forecast models have now shifted, and Rob Marciano is standing by. The major travel warning tonight after this explosion and the discovery on another ferry. Why Americans are now being warned and what's behind the warning with so many planning vacation. You have to see this tonight. A scammer out to steal your money doesn't realize he has called the police.
If I don't do this in 45 minutes, what happens?
And then the sheriff officer will come and arrest you.
What everyone should know about these calls, and the famous American athletes with an invitation and a major surprise tonight. Who is our person of the week?
This is ABC World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, and we begin tonight with that developing headline, the tense standoff, a hostage situation unfolding at this hour. The images coming in from one of the largest veterans' homes in America in Napa Valley, California. A massive response from law enforcement, the entire complex on lockdown right now. The FBI and the ATF are on the scene. SWAT teams moving across the property, taking positions. Hostage negotiators, we are told, are talking to the gunman who already opened fire. ABC's Matt Gutman leading us off.
Tonight, SWAT teams cornering that hostage taker. All at this sprawling care facility that serves veterans.
There was an exchange of gunfire fired by both our deputy and the suspect. There were bullets, many bullets fired.
Police say a lone gunman loaded up with ammo and a semi-automatic rifle took multiple hostages at a going-away party for employees at the Pathway Home, which serves veterans of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan suffering from PTSD. Larry Kamer says his wife was one of the hostages the suspect released.
There was cake and, a little bit of a celebration, and then this man walked in with a gun. My wife and 3 other women were able to leave. Like everybody else, I'm kind of on pins and needles now and just hoping this gets resolved with nobody getting hurt.
Now 3 hostages remain inside.
I don't know at this time the status of the hostages.
You can see first responders setting up a triage area with those red and yellow tarps. So far, no reports of casualties as SWAT teams continue to secure the area around the building, ordering everybody to shelter in place. What's known as the Veterans Home of California, Yountville, is a massive complex, the largest veterans care facility in the country. The siege triggered an enormous evacuation, which included a group of 80 school children nearby.
Matt Gutman is with us live tonight from California. And Matt, hostage negotiators have reached the suspect, but so far no word on any demands.
That's right, David. There are hostage negotiators from 3 separate agencies, including the FBI, in that building right now, talking to that suspect. Now, the good news is there has been no more gunfire since the very early stages of this standoff. But as you mentioned, no word yet on demands or a motive. David.
Matt Gutman leading us off tonight, and as soon as we have more, we'll pass it on to you. In the meantime, to that high-stakes gamble for President Trump, agreeing to meet face-to-face with Kim Jong-un. Any reward from this, of course, also comes with great risk. Tonight, what the White House is now saying about this face-to-face meeting, of course, amid high tensions with North Korea, and questions here at home about whether the President of the United States and the North Korean dictator should be seen together. Should Kim Jong-un be elevated to the same stage? ABC's chief White House correspondent Jonathan Karl tonight with what he's just learned.
The president was ecstatic, poking his head into the White House briefing room to announce that something big was about to happen, and then telling ABC News, "I hope you give me credit." Minutes later, the South Koreans revealed the surprise message from Kim Jong-un.
He expressed his eagerness to meet President Trump as soon as possible.
Kim's invitation included a promise to pause nuclear and missile tests and to accept that U.S. troops will continue joint military exercises with the South. The White House seemed to accept the offer with no strings attached, saying simply the president will accept the invitation to meet with Kim Jong-un at a place and time to be determined. But today, the White House suggested there are now other preconditions. Does he think that Kim Jong-un can be trusted as a negotiating partner?
Look, we're not in the negotiation right now. We've accepted the invitation to talk based on them following through with concrete actions on the promises that they've made.
According to the press secretary, the North Koreans have promised something big: denuclearization.
They've promised to denuclearize, they've promised to stop nuclear and missile testing, and they've recognized that we're going to continue in our military exercises. This meeting won't take place without concrete actions that match the promises that have been made by North Korea.
It's unclear exactly what those concrete actions are or how they would be verified. No sitting president has ever met with a leader of North Korea. And before yesterday's surprise announcement, the idea seemed virtually unthinkable, coming after a year of escalating tensions, including North Korea's most powerful nuclear and missile tests. The rhetoric has been red hot.
North Korea best not make any more threats to the United States. They will be met with fire and fury like the world has never seen. Rocket Man is on a suicide mission for himself and for his regime.
Kim has called Trump mentally deranged and an old lunatic. Trump has called Kim a maniac, a madman, and a sick puppy. But last year, the president also described Kim as a, quote, smart cookie. And tonight, the next step in their relationship, to be determined.
So let's get to John Karl. He's live at the White House tonight. And John, even with Sarah Sanders talking about those preconditions today in the briefing, your sources inside the White House tonight telling you that they are very much planning to move forward with this meeting?
A senior White House official, David, just told me there are, in fact, no new preconditions, no promise on denuclearization from the North Koreans. That the policy that was announced last night remains. The only promises from the North Koreans are they will stop for now their nuclear tests and their missile tests. They will accept those joint military exercises with the U.S. and South Korea. Officials here, David, are fully expecting and planning for a meeting with Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un.
All right, John Karl at the White House. John, thanks. It was last night here we showed you that horrific video, a man walking home suddenly on the ground and beaten by police. Tonight, the former police officer facing charges in Asheville, North Carolina. The officer's body cam showing the man ordered to put his hands behind his back. He resists. Then he's beaten and tasered and charged himself. ABC's Steve Osunsami with what played out today.
In his first court appearance today, this former Asheville police officer got to feel what it's like on the other end of the law, mugshot included.
You know what's funny is you're going to get up hardcore.
Chris Hickman was the police officer wearing the body camera in this disturbing video that only became public last week.
I can't breathe!
He's seen punching the daylights out of Johnny Rush, an unarmed black man leaving work who they were arresting for jaywalking. The police chief says she's disciplined the supervisor you see here, listening to the officer tell his side of the story.
Tried to drag the taser out of my hand, and then I just went on his head. Put your hands behind your back!
Investigators say she failed to go look at the video that night.
The supervisor dropped the ball on the response to that and was disciplined as a result.
Hickman tonight is facing 3 charges, including assault by strangulation, a felony. The incident took place in August. Why it took 6 months and a leaked video before charges were filed has many in Asheville upset.
It's an obvious bad thing. This isn't something that should happen anymore.
The former officer has not yet entered a plea. He appears in court again in April. David?
Steve Osunsami, our thanks to you again tonight. And next this evening, former Trump campaign aide Sam Nunberg, who famously went on that cable news tour in recent days, suggesting the special counsel Robert Mueller may have something on President Trump, appearing before the Mueller grand jury today.
How did you go, man?
Nunberg seen leaving federal court after spending 6 hours answering questions, a turnaround from earlier this week when he said he would burn the subpoena and refuse to cooperate, changing his stance hours later. And just a short time ago, Nunberg sitting down with ABC News saying he thinks the investigation is warranted and that it possibly could lead to someone on the campaign. We'll have more of that interview for you on GMA in the morning. In the meantime, tonight, the legal battle between an adult film star and President Trump. And there is word tonight that the president's personal lawyer used his Trump Organization email to arrange payment. And tonight, where he says that payment came from. Here's ABC's chief national correspondent, Tom Llamas.
Tonight, President Trump's personal attorney, Michael Cohen, telling ABC News he used funds from his own home equity line to pay off porn star Stormy Daniels. Daniels, seen here with Donald Trump in a picture she shared on social media, claims she accepted $130,000 in what she calls a hush agreement just days before the election.
Do you have a non-disclosure agreement?
Do I?
Cohen insists neither the Trump campaign nor the Trump organization were involved. But Daniels' lawyer says President Trump himself had to know.
The suggestion, or any suggestion, that he didn't know about it is quite honestly absurd, for lack of a better term.
The lawyer now pointing to this email. Cohen using his Trump Organization email account to handle part of the bank transactions for the payment to Daniels. Cohen says that proves nothing, telling ABC News, I sent emails from the Trump Org email address to my family, friends, as well as Trump business emails. I basically used it for everything. I am certain most people can relate. Daniels arguing the so-called hush agreement is null and void because Donald Trump, using the alias David Dennison, never signed it.
Michael Cohen has come out and said, listen, I paid her $130,000. This agreement was in place. Why are you guys fighting this?
Because Ms. Daniels wants to tell her side of the story.
All right, Tom Llamas with us live tonight from outside Trump Tower. And Tom, the White House denies that President Trump had a relationship with Stormy Daniels, but they won't say definitively whether or not he knew his personal lawyer paid her to keep her quiet just days before the election.
That's right, David, and tonight this fight is getting more intense. Stormy Daniels' attorney just told me this. Does Mr. Cohen really think that the American people will believe him when he states that he did all of this, the negotiation, the drafting of the agreement, the communication, and the payment, without any knowledge whatsoever of his client, Mr. Trump? So is he admitting he violated his ethical obligations of a lawyer to keep his client informed? Mr. Cohen, for his part, has told us that that attorney is seeking his 15 minutes of fame and, quote, despite all of our reporting, there is nothing to see here. David?
Tom, thank you. We'll see you here this weekend. Now to the fast-moving investigation tonight. 180 soldiers moving into that community in the UK trained in chemical warfare after that former Russian spy and his daughter were poisoned. Our chief foreign correspondent, Terry Moran, is on the scene tonight.
As technicians in hazmat gear fanned out across key Salisbury sites today, the military also moved in. 180 troops trained in chemical warfare, some removing possibly contaminated police vehicles. Hazmat crews even erected a tent over the graves of Sergei Skripal's wife and son. Skripal may have visited here before the attack. The weapon, a nerve toxin described by authorities as a very rare agent that could only have been produced by a few laboratories in the world. Skripal, a former colonel in the Russian army who was caught spying for Britain in 2006 and was later released in a spy swap, by all accounts led a quiet life in this quiet city.
Skripal and his daughter left the Italian restaurant at the end of this passageway, crossed this bridge, and collapsed over on a park bench, now covered by a tent. They were already fighting for their lives.
For the people of Salisbury, the widening probe is worrying.
You still feel like there's a threat?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, until it's all been resolved and things like that, a lot of people are going to still sit there and worry about it, aren't they, without any explanation.
Experts say the rare toxin used here suggests government involvement in this chemical weapons attack, and they note that Russia has a history of using poisons against alleged traitors. David?
Terry Moran with us again tonight, and we're learning more this evening about that warning for American tourists. Families headed on vacation to Mexico. The U.S. State Department reporting, quote, credible information about a threat to Playa del Carmen. That's near Cancun. ABC's James Longman tonight from Mexico.
New images tonight of the bomb that rocked this ferry in the popular Mexican resort of Playa del Carmen. The country's TV network Televisa showing a homemade explosive with a detonator and power supply. More than 24 people were injured in the explosion, 5 Americans among them. Now the US is taking action, closing its consulate in Playa del Carmen, although they claim it's not related to the ferry bombing. But just days after that explosion, a second device was found, unexploded, beneath another ferry owned by the same company. As a result, Princess Cruises telling its guests they've cancelled all tours that make use of those ferries. As well as closing the consulate, the new US security alert prohibits government employees from travelling to Playa del Carmen.
The State Department alert emphasizes to tourists who do vacation here to be aware of their surroundings and exercise caution, and if they do need help, to know how to contact their nearest US embassy or consulate. David?
James Longman in Mexico. James, thanks. And back here at home, a major headline about the economy tonight. A new jobs report showing a hiring surge.